Hey my good friend, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we are test driving the all-new 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQE 350 Plus all-electric SUV. And so we're going to have a good look at it inside and out. We're going to take it for a drive. And just like always, I'm going to tell you what I really think. All right, my friends, so what we have here is a dedicated all-electric vehicle for Mercedes-Benz, the EQE. It is the midsize electric SUV, slotting between the EQB and the EQS on the top end. And we've driven both of those, and now we finally get to drive the middle ground. While it does look a lot like the EQS, almost identical in fact, it is quite a bit smaller. It has a smaller footprint, it's a little bit easier to handle and drive. And the one we have here is the exclusive package trim grade. It is the 350 rear-wheel drive as tested. We're at $86,000 and some change. It has quite a few options on it, which you'll see floating across your screen as we discuss various parts of the car. This one does have the rear wheel steering. It can turn those rear wheels up to 10 degrees, which really makes this thing a breeze to park. And it also helps the handling at higher speeds by turning those wheels in different ways. It's not always up to 10 degrees. This one has 20-inch wheels as an option, and this also has running boards down here as an option. Now, honestly, not necessary. I find that they're actually in the way. If it were a big, tall SUV, it might be nice, but they're a very nice looking running board. I will give them that. Up at the top is a full panoramic roof, and it does open. And so it not only gives you light inside, but it can give you ventilation as well. When it comes to styling, a little bit more conservative than some of the competitors out there. Honestly, Mercedes-Benz has been kind of on a conservative styling bent for a while, and this fits right into the rest of the lineup. Looking at the face, it's definitely Mercedes-Benz. There's no doubting that. Now, because it is an EQ, it doesn't have a traditional grille. It is a plastic, shiny, translucent panel that really sort of creates a face. LED lighting, of course, all around, front to back. If you look at the back, you'll see that we have LED lighting back there, a nice generous helping of chrome. And at the rear, this has a fully power opening hatch, as you'd expect at this price. And this does have the charging port at the rear. Charging times on this, you can see sort of a sampling of charging times. Basically, it falls in line with most vehicles, and it's usually dependent on the battery size, which in this case, a big 90.6 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery under the center of the floor, about the size of a queen size bed. Pretty big battery, and it makes the vehicle heavy, 5,300 pounds all in. So that is the exterior walk around. Let's now go inside. The interior of the EQE is classic Mercedes-Benz, and I mean that in terms of design, I mean it in terms of quality, and here in a well-loaded model, it's got technology and creature comforts that many other brands don't even offer. And so rather than get into all of the different options and whatnot, the basic design of what we got here is very artistic. The quality materials is exceptional. As I sit here, this particular model has MB-Tex seats, which are not leather, they are vinyl MB-Tex, and they have the optional ventilated seats. That is an option here. Heated seats are included, and they're very comfortable. They're power operated. I do have memory settings here for the driver as well as the passenger. And you have a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel with excellent switch gear. A lot of the switches here are touch sensitive controls, and there are paddle shifters here for the regenerative braking. Ahead of me, a 12.3-inch instrument cluster, fully digital, fully customizable. There's different themes you can put on there with different colors and designs. There's different information sets that you can display, and it's exceptionally well done, one of the best in the business. The center stack here, very simple, a 12.8-inch screen. A lot of the controls for the car are on that screen in various menus, and then they have quick zero-layer controls for all of the most important things. There is a touch-sensitive bar here below that with a number of quick jump items that you can get to what you want right away, as well as volume and things like that. Above me is a large panoramic moonroof, and it does have a opening front section, but it is huge. It absolutely lets a lot of light in, and it does have a shade that you can shed. It's not 100% opaque, which I regret just a little bit here in the Phoenix summer, but it does get most of the light out. With one of the packages that this has an ambient lighting system inside that is just absolutely beautiful to look at both day and night. Now we're in daylight and you can see it a little bit, but in the shade of the parking garage you can see it a lot better. And you can cycle that to almost limitless color combinations. You can get into the menu here and it can be cycling colors, it can be a solid color, and you can also program it to change color depending on how you're driving. If you mash the pedal, if you're speeding, if you're slowing down, it can actually give you driver feedback. So there's a lot of ways that you can use this functionally, but it's just a nice mood setting device when you're driving around on a daily or nightly basis. I love it. This is an SUV, so there's a lot of usefulness and versatility here. This cover here that you can see opens up, and inside cup holders and a place to put your phone, as well as charging ports down there. And there's also a wireless charger down in there. You have to stick your phone down in it, but it is there. Storage inside here, this is absolutely huge. This is the size of literally almost 3 square tissue boxes. You could put a gallon jug of milk or water in here. It's very deep. It goes all the way down in there. And so probably 5 or 6 bottles of water. I mean, there's a number of things you can use this for, but it's not shallow like they are in most cars. It takes full advantage of the fact that we have a flat floor here and there's no hump that takes up a lot of that space. If you look underneath the console, you'll see that they've used that space for storage. There's a nice big area down there. You can put a purse, a backpack. It's a lot of space that they've used very wisely. The rear seat of the EQE, as you can see, is pretty roomy. I'm sitting in a nice high seating position, which is good. I've got plenty of leg room. As you can see, these seats are set for my height, about 5'8", with my shoes on. I've got about 6 inches ahead of my knees, so I could have a very tall person sitting here in front of me and I would be fine. There are vents back here, thank goodness. It's 114 degrees at the moment. That is blowing on me and keeping me cool. Down below, there are some USB ports as well. The seat does fold down in a 60-40 split, offering a nearly fully flat load floor, and that is a big cargo space back there, as you can see. A lot of room. It's nice and tall, and underneath that floor you will not find a spare tire here. Instead, you will find a pretty deep well space that includes the fix-a-flat kit, so to speak, as well as the auxiliary emergency charger that's included with the vehicle. Overall, I'm very impressed with this interior. I love the design. It's beautiful to look at. The materials are of an excellent quality. It's everything I expect when I spend up for Mercedes. And the feature content in here is very good. We're at $86,000. I would expect leather at this price, but honestly, a lot of EVs, they've sort of pushed leather further up and made it optional in a lot of cases, because a lot of EV customers tend to be a little bit more conscious of things like natural hides and whatnot, so they don't always make it standard in these cases. But the MB-Tex is still quite nice. It is vinyl, but it looks and feels like leather, and it doesn't have that sweaty feeling that a lot of vinyls have. So very well done on this interior. It gets 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is a little bit different than what we've seen on past Mercedes-Benz in the past 4 or 5 years. Instead of the single slab horizontally, they've separated that out. It is now a 12.8-inch screen. The amount of feature content here is so vast and so wide that I could literally do an entire video on it, and nobody really wants to watch that. But this has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it's wireless, Sirius XM radio. This has an excellent navigation system that is voice activated, and you can talk to the car and get just about anything you want. It's got a concierge. And there's the Burmester sound system that's absolutely one of the best in the business. It sounds great. And so using this takes a little bit of getting used to. The menus, there's a learning curve, but they work exceptionally well. The controls on the steering wheel and the controls here are duplicated by a lot of the touch sensitive controls on the screen. The graphics are exceptional. The menu layouts and the trees, the climate control, the environments, the lighting, all of the settings for the car, it's all in there. It's very well done. And the actual backup camera and the overall view that you get is very intuitive to use. So it's it's just literally one of the best in the business. This system gets 5 out of 5 stars. All right, so if you watch my videos, you know the question I always like to ask is, how does it go? And 60. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, this is the base model. It has a single motor at the rear axle with 288 horsepower and 417 pound-feet of torque. You can get this with 4MATIC all-wheel drive, which means it has a front and rear motor, more power. Under the floor is a 90.6 kilowatt-hour battery that gives this an advertised range of 279 miles. Now, a little quirk with this car is that I've actually found the range to be much higher, and I've checked with Mercedes-Benz to make sure there wasn't some kind of a secret battery in this pre-production car. And so when I have a full charge on this battery, it's telling me 385 miles. That's a lot more than advertised. And in my driving with it this week, I have found that that holds true with my usage and the miles driven, that this actually does have a higher range than what's advertised. Now, what I will tell you is that if you look at the European ratings for this, they're up there around 370 miles, give or take, which matches what I'm seeing. So it may very well possibly be that the EPA's way of looking at power and range is underestimating what it is. I'm just saying that. I'm putting that out there. My experience with this car this week is that it's got excellent range. So if you see that the range advertises under 300 miles, don't be too afraid of that. And keep in mind that this is also in 110 to 115 degree temperature, which typically kills range. That really is interesting because you've got all these cooling systems working overtime, the air conditioning, the liquid cooling system for the battery, and all of the components that are also taking power from the battery. So I do find that interesting. Now, this powertrain is very quiet. Obviously, it's electric. It's very refined. One of the things that this has that is very cool is it has an adjustable regen braking, and you can control that with these paddle shifters. What that means is you can have really aggressive regenerative braking that when you lift off this pedal, it's almost like hitting the brakes. In fact, it is almost hitting the brakes. And furthermore, this has a mode, one pedal driving, and that really gets aggressive on the regenerative braking, but that allows you to lift off the pedal and come to a complete stop, and it'll stay stopped until you hit the power pedal again. And it actually works very well. It really takes some getting used to because it's very strong. Most people, we get into a vehicle, we put it in drive, we expect it to start creeping away, and when it's in that mode, it sits there. And especially if you're parking in a parking lot, it does take some getting used to. So just putting that out there. The good news is if you don't want that, you don't have to have it. You can turn it off and you can set the regenerative braking to a more normal feeling mode. The upshot is you can have it any way you want it. And I love that in a car when it gives you options. And Mercedes-Benz is generally pretty good at that. So this is a powertrain that I'm very impressed with. Not only is the battery range much better than what's advertised, the level of power for even being the base model is pretty good. So I give this powertrain 5 out of 5 stars. So on the topic of ride, drive, and handling, again, we're in the base model, which means this has the base suspension. And by that I mean that there is available an Airmatic air suspension on higher models. Here we do have adaptive variable dampers, which is important in an electric car, and that's because with all of the weight that this battery offers up, they tend to be very stiffly sprung. And so as a result, a lot of electric cars have a very bouncy, unforgiving ride. So the adaptive dampers allow this to have a ride which is more forgiving most of the time, and when it senses the need to be stiffer, it stiffens the dampers up automatically and instantaneously. And it's also dialed into your drive modes as well. So you can have it the way you want when it comes to damper stiffness. Out on the highway at speed, this is very quiet. You'd expect it to be. There's very little powertrain noise, but this is so aerodynamic that there's also very little wind noise. This tested at 55.3 decibels on my 70-mile-an-hour test, which is well below average. The one area that I would complain about this chassis and overall driving experience is the brakes. And that's because this does have an electronically controlled brake system, and especially when you have the adjustable regenerative braking and when you're using the automatic one pedal driving for the braking, this does have a very strange feel in the brake pedal. And so if you have it on the one pedal driving and you're also using the brakes, they're going to feel pretty strange to you, because in many cases the system is already trying to use those brakes. And if you start putting your foot into the mix, why? It just feels weird because there's already action going on. So they take some getting used to, and electronic brakes typically have software and tuning involved, so there's a lot of things going on, but they do feel a little bit strange at times. Now in normal modes, when you're not using heavy regenerative braking and you're not doing one pedal, they're a lot better. But if you're going all the way to that max range braking behavior, they feel a little bit weird. So ride's good, very quiet, adjustable suspension good, brakes could use some improvement. This chassis gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, we have looked at it inside now. We've taken it for a drive. Now the question is how does it compete, and is it worth the money? So here we are, we've got Mercedes-Benz, and when I've tested other Mercedes-Benz electric vehicles before, my take is generally this: there are a lot of electric vehicles out there to choose from. This is the Mercedes-Benz of electrics, and by that I mean, if you're a Mercedes-Benz customer, you've had maybe one or two or a lot of them, you're going to find that this looks like one, it smells like one, it feels like one inside, it drives like one. It's got all the Mercedes-Benz DNA that you've come to love. It just happens to be electric. And that's really it. Now, if you've not been around Mercedes-Benz and you want an electric vehicle, this is the Mercedes-Benz of electric vehicles. That's the best way to put it. It does electric just as well as all of the other new brands, as well as some of the other legacy brands. It just does it in the Mercedes way, which means it feels solid, it's of quality, and it does cost more. So as tested, we're at $86,000. Honestly, this is sort of the middle of the road on the EQE. If you go up into the higher powered models, the AMG, you're going to spend a lot more. And know that when you put options on these, that's where the money's at, right? We start out at $77,000. We've got right around $10,000 of options here. So when I look at all of it put together, this has got a great warranty, 10 years, 155,000 miles on the battery, 4 years, 50,000 miles on the bumper to bumper. And so it is one of the better warranties in the business. Chances are you don't want to keep it after that. That's just a Mercedes rule in general. Not saying anything bad about them. It's just that, you know, it's a rule. Ask a few people. That said, I put value at 4 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 4.5 stars for the review. Very good. It's the Mercedes-Benz of electric SUVs. Have a look. So there you go. Now, if you like what we do here, you can see our social media channels down below. You can see our latest video right there, but better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right there and stay informed of everything we do. Either way, stay tuned.